Welcome back, guys, and welcome to the full rankings of all the characters from Dynasty Warriors 3 from worst to best. If you've already seen these videos, you've seen half the list already, and this video will be showing all the characters in order based on the system I created. Just a quick little description of what they were judged on, I will show you guys right here. If you're confused with any rankings or have any questions, just let me know down below. But with that being said, I'll let the ranking play through, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Starting at the bottom, most of you already know, the Tiger Fool himself, Mr. Shu Chu. Like I said in the original video, he wasn't built to be very good. AoE is not that great. He's slow. Muso's terrible. Just not things that you want for a playable character in a Muso game. Moving on to number 40, we've got Zhu Rong. The non-mon queen has most of our hearts, but she does not have a good kit in Dynasty Warriors 3, landing her down here at number 40. And then following suit, we've got the Way of Peace master himself, Mr. Zhang Jiao. Not a good character in this game. The staffs were just not very good, and a lot of his moves for his kit were just not very useful. And next up, we've got the Sleeping Dragon. He should have stayed sleeping in this game because he is not very good at all. Terrible kit. Muso is one of the worst in the game, and he's just not a fun character to play with, in my opinion. And then following suit, we've got his rival, getting a little bit of an edge over him in this list. His kit is not great, but he has a little bit better moveset than his Sleeping Dragon counterpart. Next up, Meng Huo. The only thing really carrying him above the other people is his Muso. Having a go to Muso, I gave him full points. He's up here a little higher just because of that. Everything else on him is terrible. Next, we have Taishutsu. Not a good character in this game. He wasn't built for AoE, like I've already mentioned in my video, and he just had a kit that was just too slow to do any damage. And when he did damage, he flung the target away, so by the time you go and try to close in on him, they're already guarding and you can't really do much. Next up, we've got the bald man himself, Mr. Dion Wei. In this game, Dion Wei is okay. His kit isn't too bad. The problem with the character mainly is his speed. His movement speed and attack speed is not a good thing in this game. You will get clipped pretty easily with him. Next up, Xiahou Yuan has the same problem as Dion Wei. Mainly the slow speed, attack, and movement is bringing him down. His Muso's decent. His kit's not too bad at all. He's got some good moves in there. Not everything's great, but decent enough. Next up at number 32, we've got the only other staff user in the game. And just like Meng Huo, the reason he's shooting himself up here is because of his Muso. His kit is okay, C4 is decent like I talked about, but for the most part, the only good thing about this character is his Muso. And then moving into Diao Chan right before we get out of the 30s, she was a decent character. She's, alright all around. I don't think she's the best. She definitely has a lot of vulnerabilities within her kit and movement. And then finally, the last number in the 30s, we've got Miss Xiao Qiao. Her kit is not that great, but her speed kind of makes up for it. Like, her square string is good enough if you can get through them. Her C3 is decent, but if they're guarding you, it's going to be hard to get them to open up. But definitely pulling her up here is definitely her speed and dueling ability. Now, jumping into the rankings of characters you guys have not seen. Number 29, so the bottom of the unknown people you guys haven't seen yet, we've got Mr. Zhang Fei. And mainly the reason that he's lower on the list, quote unquote lower, or towards the bottom half, is because of his speed. His kit's not bad. Muso's pretty decent. He's great at dueling. He's just not fast enough to do consistent damage or to juggle. And coming up next, we've got the fatty himself, Mr. Dong Zhuo. I feel like a lot of the sword users in this game do pretty well, and he's just the worst out of the sword users. He's a little slow with his attack speed. His movement speed is really bad. His dueling is definitely the best part of the character. Next up, we've got the legendary guest character herself, Nu Wa, getting a mix of really high and really low scores. She's one out of like maybe a handful of characters that I actually gave 2 10 out of 10s throughout her ratings, and that's going to be for her dueling and her speed. She is excellent in 1v1. She is so fast. She shreds. It's super easy to keep pressure on. Nu Wa absolutely excels in those areas, but everything else is either average or below average, and that's why she's down here at number 27. Next up, we've got Wei Yan, who overall is slightly, in my opinion, below average as a character. He's a lot slower than I thought he was. Below average speed in my opinion. His AoE is pretty decent. He's got his Muso, C6, C4, and square string. A lot of good stuff for his AoE. He's just a little slow. His Muso is decent as well. I think it's great for crowd clearing, but I feel like it doesn't hit as hard as some of the other Musos. Next up, coming in at number 25, I feel like a lot of these characters down in this area are suffering from slow speed, and that doesn't exclude this character, which is going to be Mr. Zhang Liao. Zhang Liao is pretty straightforward to use. He has some decent moves. His Muso is pretty good, but the problem is his speed. His C6 is really good in the game, but it's dangerous against a faster AI. His windup for the C6 is so slow that even if you get all the hits up until the C6, they can recover fast enough and actually block it. Next up, this character had the exact same rating as Zhang Liao, but I feel like he's a little bit better, or I would enjoy playing him just a little bit more, and that's going to be Mr. Zhou Yu. A lot of his moves are pretty decent, but he has a lot of vulnerabilities with what he can do. His C5 is good if you can hit it, but it is a little slow. I think his speed is just around average for him as well, which doesn't help him. His square string is decent, his Muso is decent. He's a little vulnerable at the end with crowd, and I really do like his running attack. Coming up next, we've got Mr. Huang Gai. And Huang Gai's got an interesting moveset. AoE is his best part. Muso is good, but it's a bit underwhelming. His C6 is actually really great. I seem to be able to get to it pretty easily without most interruption. And that's because I feel like his attack speed is a little bit above average. Then moving into Lu Meng. He does decently well in all areas for this game except for attack speed. His square string is good. It's great for AoE. His Muso is decent for AoE. His Muso is great for dueling. Keeps the person there. Very, very good. And then right in the halfway point, this character has the exact same rating as the previous number, but I think he's a little bit more safer to play. We've got the beard man himself, Mr. Guan Yu. He's a good character in this game. His Muso is the best part of the character, clears out most, even when characters are blocking, and creates enough distance for him to get away. But his below average speed for both his attack and movement speed could put him in trouble. Now moving into Sun Jian, he also had the exact same rating as the previous two, but I feel like the sword users in this game definitely have a bit of advantage over the two-handed weapons. He has the above average speed. His kit is really straightforward. For Sun Jian, I mean, you really only need his square string, and he's got that slightly above average speed, which gives him a little bit of advantage in my opinion over the two-handed users with Guan Yu and Lu Meng. Right above him, we've got his son. Best thing about the character, hands down, is his fast movement speed, along with his attack speed being pretty decent. His Muso is not too bad at all, but you are quite vulnerable at the end when he jumps up. His C's are great, except for the C5. Next up, we've got one of my personal favorites from the game. We've got Mr. Zheng He. Best thing about the character for sure is his dueling and speed aspects. He's a very fast character. His counter speed after you block is pretty insane, and if his movement speed was a little bit higher, he'd probably be a 10 out of 10. But a very fast square string absolutely shreds people. His C6 is actually really good as well, but I wish it affected people behind him too. And then his Muso is decent, but because of the control, it gets hard to aim him. And coming up next, we've got the one-eyed man himself, one of the most straightforward characters in the game. That is definitely the best part of the character. He's very easy to use. The only thing is that if you fight alone, there will be a possibility that you get overrun pretty easily. And his kit is a little bit above average. A couple of the C's I wouldn't use. And coming up at number 16, right before the top 15 best characters in my opinion from Dynasty Warriors 2, we got a surprising number. This character surprised me when I played him. That's going to be Huang Zhang. He has a similar moveset to Xiahou Yuan, but I feel like it's so much better. His speed isn't too great. Everything else seems to be pretty decent. The only thing that's really bad about the kit to me was his C3. Everything else was pretty good for him. Alright, starting off our top 15, we're getting to the best of the best from Dynasty Warriors 3, and we're starting off with Miss Zenji. Muso is a 10 out of 10. I mean, it is one of the best ones. OP, clears out pretty much everyone, and you can get to reset. I mean, it is one of the safest Musos you can use in this game. She's extremely fast, but when you get offline with her, you can take some damage pretty easily, especially against people who have longer weapons. Alright, next up at number 14, we've got the benevolence man himself, Jiang Wei. Best thing about the character 100% is the speed. His attack speed is great. He doesn't have the best kit, but because of his fast speed, it definitely makes up for that. His Muso is decent. He's got a nice jump attack to break guarding enemies. And the last character to be revealed before you guys already know who the top 12 is, if you've seen the other video, is Mr. Shu Huang. His Muso and AoE capabilities is absolutely beautiful. And I think the reason he didn't make the top 12 is because of his speed. His speed is absolutely abysmal. And now going into the top 12, which like I've already talked about in that other video, just briefly once again, we've got Fushi coming in at number 12. Muso, AoE, absolutely destructive. And then we have Yuan Shao. Again, sword users I think did great in this game. Yuan Shao with his C6 is really, really good. He can get to his C6 too because of how fast he is. His dueling is really good. His Muso is great. One of the most straightforward, fun characters to play that I was actually surprised to see. Yuan Shao at number 11, right before the top 10. And next up we have Da Qiao, one of the best characters hands down from Dynasty Warriors 3. She's got everything that her sister is missing along with the good stuff as well. Just for me, she doesn't seem to be as fast movement wise as Xiao Qiao, but her attack speed is on the same level. Absolutely deadly when it comes to dueling. Next up at number 9, we have Mr. Cao Cao. I know this is some people's favorite character from the game, and I've seen most people say that his C6 is the strongest move in the game, which I can potentially agree with. I think it is one of the most powerful ones. Anything with the death element is pretty strong. If you get offline with his C6, the AI will make you pay for it. And then right above him, we've got his rival, Mr. Liu Bei. Again, very similar to him. His speed is very similar to him. I think his AoE is just a little bit better than him. His Muso is great, Square String's great, and he's extremely fast. I mean, he's a good character to play with in Dynasty Warriors 3. Next up, we've got Lu Xun. Similar to Cao Cao, his AoE is just not that great. He's got the death element on his C3, which I think is better than Cao Cao's C6 because you're not stuck in an animation. With Lu Xun's C3, you do the the backflip, jump up, jump down, and then you can get out of it if you need to. Super straightforward. You can pretty much clear crowds, dueling, whatever you need for the character. He does pretty well. His juggling is great. Next up, we've got Ma Chao. He's pretty much the better version of Zheng Wei in this game. Everything about him is much, much better. His dueling is absolutely insane. You can juggle forever with Ma Chao. His Muso isn't too bad. Ease of use is pretty good. A lot of good things with Ma Chao, and he's definitely one of the best characters in my opinion. And then coming in at number 5, we've got everyone's favorite poster boy, Mr. Zhao Yun. Coming in with his 10 out of 10 AoE and ease of use. I mean, there's just no fear in playing Zhao Yun and sweeping through a crowd and playing comfortably with the character. Absolutely destroys people. The only thing about the character is attack speed is just about average, but overall the character I think is great in the game. And next up, we've got the lawnmower himself, Mr. Gan Ning. He's pretty destructive in this game. He moves so fast. His Muso is great. I mean, you got the AoE destruction. His dueling, he just feels so powerful when he's dueling. I mean, he's great. He's a very good character in this game. Next up, we've got Miss Sun Shengzheng coming in with the bronze medal, one of the fastest characters in the game, 10 out of 10 speed, and she is great to use in the game. Kit is amazing except for her C5, her ease of use. I mean, she's great. Like I said, I mean, her C5 is the only bad thing in the kit. AoE is great, dueling isn't too bad, Muso is great, and she's just overall one of the best characters in my opinion from this game. And then following suit at number 2, we've got her brother, and he definitely takes the medal for the most underrated character in Dynasty Warriors 3. I mean, again, sword users seem to really get a lot of love in this game. He has surprisingly very good AoE. I mean, when I was playing with him, I was bullying. I mean, I had no problem with the AI at all. Ease of use out the wazoo. Kit rating is good. I mean, you can juggle with this guy, again, easily. I mean, I didn't struggle with him in 1v1. You can mow down people easily. C4, absolutely underrated kit in Dynasty Warriors 3. One of the best in my opinion. And then, of course, the no-brainer at number 1 is Mr. Lu Bu. I mean, you got the big swings. You got the Muso. His attack speed is ridiculously crazy. Movement speed is ridiculously crazy. It doesn't get any easier than playing Lu Bu in Dynasty Warriors 3, and he's going to take the top of the chart like he usually does for these videos at number 1. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to have the conglomerate list of rankings play so you can see all the characters side by side and their ratings as close as I can. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll be doing Dynasty Warriors 4 next and see how they all changed and got better or worse. And if you made it this far and you enjoyed the video, I definitely appreciate a like, comment, or subscribe. Let me know down below what you guys think about my rankings and what I found. And that's all I have, guys. I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone.